Snipers, you have to see what's happening to the Bitcoin price this Friday as I just got our on-chain analytics for the day. Over $100 million of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and USDT entering exchanges to start the weekend off with. And for those that have been tuned into the Snipers channel over the last 5 years, you know the weekends are the most manipulated in the cryptocurrency market. Because CME futures are closed, whales love to manipulate price during the weekend. And so I have two very specific scenarios that we could expect this weekend, one being more likely than the other based on the fact that the S&P 500 is quite calm today, not breaching its recent consolidation lows. I want to dive straight into the chart, Snipers. And the first thing I want to talk about is the fact that everyone right now is watching this ascending triangle pattern for Bitcoin. And it seems like it's very obvious that we have this extremely important support level that Bitcoin is holding right around that $38,200 level. We also have confluence there with the weekly open, and then 38,000 is just below that, which is the major volume support. But what I want you guys to notice here is the fact that the S&P 500 is closing the week not breaching this recent consolidation low. And so what that tells me is that there's no reason for Bitcoin to cross below the $34,000 level and breach its recent consolidation lows. And what that would also tell me is, with Bitcoin being the stronger asset over the last few months against the S&P 500, and especially because it's attached to its 50-day moving average, unlike the S&P 500, which is below all its daily moving average, that there's no reason as well for Bitcoin to breach below this ascending triangle support coming into the weekend. But with all of this USDT and Bitcoin and Ethereum coming onto exchanges and the weekends being the most manipulated, we have to expect two specific scenarios here. And I think the more likely scenario is that because we are in such a large range here, and the fact that the last 3 daily candles have held the 50-day moving average, that Bitcoin can most likely be range bound above 38,200, but potentially below 41,950 until we can get some stronger confirmations from the outside revolving parts. And so this right here is probably the most likely scenario into the weekend, that we stay range bound inside of this channel with an extremely important resistance of 41,950 and extremely important support of 38,000. Of course, 38,200 also being important because that's the market structural support. And so that right there is one scenario, but I do want to also address the potential scenario of manipulation during the weekend, where because everyone is watching that ascending support level at 38,200, why wouldn't the whales create a little bit of some drama and some fear in the markets? And if they bring price down below 38,200, here's what I think they'll want to do. They might want to come and potentially act as if they're going to break this ascending triangle pattern and maybe come to test 36,500 again. I don't think that it's as likely for them to want to come and test 34,788 just because of the fact that that right there is a very big support level where if that door opens, it opens up a very large downside scenario. And so there is a potential, and we know that there's a lot of volume here at 36,500 and 34,788, that we could see some sort of price action down to those levels, especially with a lot of Bitcoin coming onto exchanges to start the weekend off with, as well as Ethereum and USDT. There's a lot of different potential volatile scenarios on the table here. So I think that those two right there are the most important things that we have to monitor coming into the weekend. I think as well for the bulls, what we have to also watch is every daily candle so far that has closed for Bitcoin since we came and saw that test of 41,950, of course we got rejected, has held on to this 50-day moving average. And the 50-day moving average is starting to inch its way a little bit lower. It's now below 40,000, right around the $39,800 level. So one thing we want to see for the bullish case is that when the next daily candle opens, we can get back towards 39,800 and at least keep the daily candles glued onto this 50-day moving average. Because as long as we can stay at that 50-day moving average, we can make it through the weekend. And then of course, next week comes up, we see how traditional markets react. And then at that point, we could potentially see them move to the upside. I don't know if we have enough puzzle pieces to justify the move to the upside just yet above 41,950 into this weekend, just because of the fact that the S&P 500 has yet to really move. It hasn't breached its recent consolidation lows, but it's also not showing the best strength. But what I will say is one bullish puzzle piece that we are ending the week with is the fact that the DXY is back at its resistance level. And why is that important? Well, if you guys don't know, the DXY has been testing a very important level here at 99.132. And what we want to assume is that at some point or another, this DXY is going to get rejected. And when that rejection happens, it's probably the bottom for Bitcoin. It could have already happened at 99.132, where we're currently sitting. And so right now we're closing the week after rejecting the level, which is garden variety market behavior with an important level, testing this support level already. And now we're back at this level. And so we could assume this might be the max amount of upside for the DXY if we're going to reject this level, or at least see some calmness in this area. Of course, the DXY is going to close with traditional markets. So for now, what we know is that we at least got the push to upside for the DXY, to where Bitcoin has already also saw its push back down below 41,950, and that it might not get any further price action to the downside now that the DXY has come back towards that resistance level. I hope that makes some sense. So what that pretty much means is that the DXY is closing with strength, and Bitcoin hasn't broke down from the ascending triangle despite the DXY closing with strength. And so that the next move that we could assume the DXY is going to come down is that it comes down. That means Bitcoin comes up. And so I think that's a very strong puzzle piece to come into the weekend with, the fact that the DXY at least got itself towards that level, and Bitcoin hasn't necessarily broken down because of it. And that's not a surprise, because Bitcoin has been the stronger asset in comparison to traditional markets over the last few weeks. And so we could expect that trend to continue. And then I do want to mention a couple things before we wrap up this video. This will be a quick one. Happy St. Patrick's Day to those that are celebrating. But one thing I want to bring up here is gold is actually coming below its weekly open. So it's starting to show a little bit more weakness. It wasn't able to hold the daily candle above the weekly open. And so if we can finally get more calmness with gold, and it doesn't just go straight into price discovery, that shows that the fear in institutional capital and equity markets isn't really too strong just yet. And that's also a very positive puzzle piece. So I would say that things in the revolving aspects of the market are quite calm to close on a Friday. We're not seeing crazy amounts of volatility. We're also not seeing crazy amounts of strength, but I will say that Bitcoin so far has been the strongest asset in comparison to equity markets. And so it's nice to see Bitcoin holding this ascending support level. More importantly, it's really nice to see it staying at that 50-day moving average and gluing itself onto it. If we see daily candles open below 39,800, the first thing we want to see is at least a wick into that 50-day moving average to maintain strength there. But I will say, as I've mentioned earlier, everyone's watching this support level. If we breach below it on the weekend, I don't think it's going to fulfill a full downside scenario. I think it would just be manipulation to maybe bring Bitcoin down to 36,500, 34,788, maybe create a gap there for the CME charts before we see continuation of the upside. And the last thing that we want to monitor into this weekend is the Ethereum to Bitcoin chart leading other altcoins with strength right now. Because it's held 65,000 Satoshi so far, we want to keep the case on the table that we see a reversal here. We don't want to just go straight into the downside scenario, since we haven't breached it with decisiveness yet, but we are testing a very important support here. And we know Luna, Terra, and altcoin formed new all-time highs 3 days ago when Bitcoin tested 41,950. And so there's still a lot of positive puzzle pieces on the table that altcoins can see continuation of the upside. And that's clearly shown here with Bitcoin dominance still rejecting the 44% level, but still without decisiveness. So those are two puzzle pieces that we're going to monitor here on the Snipers channel, as we've been making videos here on the cryptocurrency market every single day for the last 5 years. Smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm if you support this 4-dimensional analysis. And that's pretty much it for today. Not much to end of Friday. Happy St. Patrick's Day to those that are celebrating. I'll get a video out if Bitcoin breaches 38,200, because that would be a very important thing to update you guys on. And then, of course, if we start to see price action back towards that 50-day moving average, if we can get to 41,950, that would also be an emergency update. But unless those two scenarios happen, if we just go range bound, I'll get an update tomorrow as I do every single day, and we'll continue to monitor the markets. But the Bitcoin dominance and Ethereum to Bitcoin chart are something on my radar this weekend. I'm going to monitor those for you guys. And then, of course, into the open for next week, we want to monitor the S&P 500, the DXY, and the other revolving parts, because those are extremely important right now. But as long as the S&P 500 does not breach its recent consolidation lows, I don't mean to beat the hammer on this on the tree right now with this thesis, but we're really holding on to this thesis that as long as SPY, S&P 500, does not breach the recent consolidation lows, there's no reason for Bitcoin to do so. And so wrapping up the week with the S&P 500 maintaining that so far, unless something changes in the next 3 hours that this video is posted, we can make the assumption Bitcoin has no reason to see a strong downside scenario into this weekend, but there's a potential we test 36,500, maybe 34,788 at most, just because of manipulation, but it wouldn't be a full downside move of a breakdown from that ascending triangle. I think that it would only happen just to kind of create a little bit of fear, and that's the trick, trap, and frustrate crew coming in and doing their thing. But so far, things look good. I think the most likely scenarios I mentioned is range-bound, sideways price action between 38,000 and 41,950, which is the range that we're currently playing in. And with that, thank you all for tuning into the Snipers channel this Friday. Hope you have an amazing weekend. I appreciate each and every one of you snipers tuned into our channel. By the way, Bitcoin Miami conference coming up April 7th. If you haven't gotten your tickets, 10% off. Link is in the description below. I'd love to see some of you there. And with that, I'll see you guys on our next video. Snipers.